Right, and I appreciate everybody checking in with us today. This is Rome coming to you with the Knowville Interviews, and today I'm speaking to Mr. Raynauld Cherry. And Mr. Cherry, if you don't mind, if you would sort of introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Hello, my name is Raynauld Cherry, and I'm born and raised here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Been here my whole life and grew up uh, pretty much in Powell in West Knoxville, and went to school at Tusculum for my undergrad and went to graduate school at Syracuse. And currently I am working at First Horizon Bank.
Interesting, sir. And exactly, if you don't mind, just a little bit, what do you do at the bank? Because actually, I was speaking to someone with the NAACP in one of our other interviews, and we were talking about one of the things that is going to be the biggest benefit to the Black community is having the having like the professional, like career type jobs, as well as like having the labor type jobs. You need that blend, to make the community whole, to make everything work properly. And we were saying one of those things would be, banking. Excuse me. That's not necessarily a profession that you see a lot of African Americans in, at least in my experience. Could you give us a little bit of insight about what made you go into that realm?
Well, it was kind of happenstance, really. Growing up and coming out of college, I was basically call centers. That was kind of my job, working through school, getting my undergrad. I started out working at Brink Home Security. Now it's ADT. Worked my way up to supervisor there after I graduated, and just eventually led into banking. First Horizon, I started out in First Horizon banking at the call center there, and being a supervisor there, and learning how to do accounts and kind of getting engulfed in that. And then, after a couple of years of doing that, kind of wanted to grow. I'm always been in the position where if I'm in some place in a role too long, I start getting stagnant. I don't like to ever feel stagnant. I don't like to ever feel like I'm in a rut. I always want to try to improve myself and go further in the company. And a position opened up in wire transfers. The main office in wire transfers is in Memphis. And just to have some duality, in case something happened, snowstorm, tornado, something tragic happened in Memphis, they still wanted to be able to get out the wires and do that. So they wanted to open up a location out here in Maryville at our operations center. So I applied for that, got that. And so currently I am oversee the wire transfer department in the Maryville, Knoxville area. We do both international and domestic wires. So anytime somebody wants to send money to either another bank or another business or another country, they have to come from my department and do those wires. And, through the course of banking, it's always good to give back. I've done a lot of financial education with Helen Ross McNabb. One of the things I like about First Horizon is that we definitely like to give back to the community. And one of those things we do is with Helen Ross McNabb, anybody who's in the foster care program who's turning 18 and about to be on their own, we do some education around, what's a checking account, what's a savings account, education about credit and credit score, also about stocks and bonds. It's like a high-level overview. And then once they're done with the classes, we help them get set up with a checking account and get them in that role. So it's been both beneficial for me, not just on a business perspective, but also on a community and giving back as well.
All right, that's very interesting, man. And I definitely was not aware of that. That's a very honorable thing, to try to do that. Um, so I guess you ended up in the banking field, basically just being in the right place with the right skill set in order to take advantage of that opportunity. Um, the thing that actually made me want to do this interview with you, though, is the fact that you have decided to do a children's book. I definitely want to talk about that. And I would say that's another field I don't think traditionally you would think of African American male and think, children's book author. What drew you to that line? Like, what made you decide that, you needed to do this?
Well, when you're growing up, when I grew up, well, the way I grew up, my mom and dad both were educators. So education was always key. My summers were not spent doing a lot of things other kids did. My mom was always, me and my sister were always the guinea pigs for her lessons plans for the next year. So we were always reading and studying. I was a big nerd growing up, and just reading and doing books. And then with my niece and nephew growing up and reading books to them. And my sister was teaching around the first, second grade, kindergarten classes. And sometimes we would go up there and help her. I just always had this thing in the back of my mind, I could write a children's book. And, it's one of those things that you think about, and it's always in the back of your mind, like, yeah, maybe I'll do it one day. I don't really know how to get started. I'm busy. I was going to Syracuse, working. So, never really had the time. And then I was watching TikTok one time, and somebody had posted about how to publish a book. And then I started doing some research on YouTube, and I was like, man, this is not that hard. It's just, writing it's going to be the hard part, but publishing it and doing it's not going to be hard. So I ended up, I got an idea for the first book and just started writing the book. And then got with some freelance artists and did the first one. And then while I was wrapping up the first one, another idea popped in my mind to do the second one. And I've always had a good imagination, and always that teaching aspect has always been in my mind. And I also teach as well. I teach at East Tennessee State University, teach a business class during the fall semester. So teaching's always been there. It's kind of been instilled in me. So with my books, just trying to teach kids, a little bit about life skills. One book is about, picking your toys up, and kind of making it fun and kind of teaching a lesson in that. And I want to make my books diverse. So the one book that I have about picking toys up, it is the characters are African American. It's an African American boy, and he's the one trying to pick his toys up. His mom keeps telling him to pick his toys up. He doesn't listen, and then his mom gets hurt by stepping on one of the toys, and then he starts picking them up because he feels bad, and gets rewarded at the end. And then the other one I have is about going to bed. Kids don't like to go to bed typically. I know my nephew was he hell-bent on not going to bed. And so this book kind of talks about dreams and how, what are you going to be in your dream? Are you going to be a pirate? You're going to be a pilot? You're going to be a superhero? And so kind of reinforces going to sleep and the goodness about dreaming and all that entails. So, and that one is a white boy in character. And then the next couple books hopefully will be Asian and of course a female as well. So I want my books to be diverse. And the other part of that is I think if you have kids and they have children books that have a different diverse characters and storylines to those, when they enter into school and they're around other people, that are different races, it just helps that flow better and makes it easy for them to adapt, and hopefully for society as a whole when they grow up.
That's very in depth into the thought process of, why you're choosing to do it this way and what characters you use. I am sort of fascinated though, as far as the education that you did. So you go to YouTube, you watch some videos. Okay, this is that hard. Then you said you reached out to some freelance artists. So what, did you go to Craigslist, or like how did you go about finding artists to illustrate the books and things of that nature?
Well, there's actually a website. It's called Fiverr. Do a lot of freelance things. Do books for artists, for T-shirts, websites, all kinds of things. So what I did was I went on there, and of course there's hundreds of them, freelance artists that are on there. But there are some that are specific for children's books. And I wanted somebody who had, it was a children cartoony artist. So I looked, went for a couple. I sent a couple pages of my book to about 3 or 4 that I kind of narrowed it down. I looked at their artwork and it looked really good, and it was kind of what I wanted. And they sent me back sketches, and one of the young ladies that responded back, it just really, when you have a thought in your mind, it's kind of like when you read a book and you go see the movie, but when you read the book, the characters look totally different than what the movie had. When she put the artistry on the paper, it was almost exactly kind of how I imagined the character. So it was a no-brainer, and we started working. It took about a month for revisions, getting it just right. Because with children's books, the illustrations tell the story just as much as the words do. So the illustrations have to match the words and what you're saying, because when you're reading these to kids, their perception of words is building. It's not right there yet, but they can look and see the illustrations as well. So that's how it started. Work with them, and I'm working on it now, because now I have it through Kindle, so it's digital. So now I'm working with some other freelancers on the same platform to try to get that converted for paperbacks. So hopefully in the next 2 or 3 months, I'll have both of those books available on Amazon, not just through Kindle for a download, but also that you'll be able to purchase those through paperback. And the goal is hopefully to have some of those paperbacks available when I get those, and then donate some of those to the local churches and to libraries so they can have those for kids as well.
Hey, that's awesome, man. And if there's anything that I can do to help, you can always reach out to me, and you know how to contact me. So definitely don't, be afraid to ask for anything that I can be of assistance with in doing that, because that's definitely a great cause. And the fact that that's something that sort of gets neglected as well, literacy, and education, all of that. Not necessarily that people want to neglect it, but it's one of those things that you tend to face things that are dire, that you can feel, that you can see. And it's like, well, yeah, you definitely want to have this strong foundational base in reading skills, because that's going to set your course pretty much for the rest of your educational journey.
Yes, exactly right. And, just growing up with 2 educators, I know the importance of